This home does have a customer shutoff. Here it's in this valve box. This is a quarter turn ball valve. This is the customer shutoff valve. So if you don't have a good customer shutoff, it'd be a good idea to have your plumber locate and install one.
Tell me a little bit about winter weather and the impact it can have on homes.
Okay, so what we see when the weather gets below freezing is leaks in water lines overhead in the attic, as well as water lines, coming down exterior walls. And then also outside hose faucets tend to freeze. And
so it's been pretty warm this winter.
Yeah.
If that's something you guys see during winter weather, I mean, people could be caught off guard by a freeze because it's been so warm.
Right.
What is the best thing for people to do ahead of a storm?
Ahead of a storm, I think the most important thing is to know how to shut off the water in case of an emergency. There's two ways of doing that. Really, the best way to do that is to locate your customer shutoff valve and know where it is and make sure it's accessible. If you don't know where that is, or if it works properly, you can have your favorite plumber help you locate it and install one if needed. But the next option would be to go to the city meter and shut the water off with a meter key. That's something you can get at Home Depot, and I could kind of walk you through how that works.
You say you see a lot of leaks, pipes are a big thing. Why is that such a problem?
Well, here in Texas, we just don't get a ton of cold weather, so it could be an insulation issue. Another thing you can do is you can drip faucets inside the home. The fact that the water is moving through those pipes, it's far less likely to freeze. So we always encourage people to open up the cabinets on any fixture that backs up to an exterior wall, as well as run some water on both the hot and cold sides. Just really of all faucets, you want a little bit more than a drip just to keep that water moving, and that works really well as remove any garden hoses from the outside hose faucets. Most people don't even think about that, and sometimes they'll wrap them and stuff like that, but removing the hose from that faucet helps dramatically. And then installing a faucet cover is always a great idea.
Why is the hose a big deal?
Because that there's just typically some water that's left standing in that hose. There's two types of hose bibs. Most older homes like this one here have just a standard hose bib where the water's shut off in the wall. Mm-hmm. So there's just standing water sitting in that valve. And then the other option is a frost-free hose bib. That's the current code, where the water's actually shut off further back in the wall, and it's designed to drain out any water that's standing in there. But if the hose is connected, that hose bib can't do its job, and the water doesn't drain out. So removing the hoses is always a good idea.
What is the explanation, I guess, that people give you as to what happened? I'm sure people feel the need to explain when something is disastrous. Yeah. Is there a common theme?
So usually what happens is people notice that they don't have water. They'll open up a faucet and no water comes out. And that tells us that line is frozen. That's kind of the first step. And in that case, that's a good time to go ahead and shut off the water, because when that thaws, there's a decent chance that just because of the expansion of the ice in that line, that there could be a leak. And then it's kind of really a waiting game for that line to thaw out and see if anything is leaking.
So you don't want to get to that point.
You don't want to get to that point. And I'll tell you this, like this home here, this home was built in the 60s. It has poor insulation, but being a plumber, I've followed everything I just said. I'll open the faucets, I'll open the cabinets. I obviously know how to shut off the water, and I haven't had any issues. I do have some water lines overhead, but just, making sure, keep water running through there and keep those lines as warm as. When there's, a prolonged freeze like we had, back in 21, we had a list of people we were trying to get to, and getting a plumber out to your home was extremely hard. So locating your customer shutoff, having a plumber install one if you don't have one, And then just taking those precautions, getting your faucet covers, and just knowing that if it's going to be, it may not be freezing when you go to sleep, but if it's going to freeze overnight, go ahead and open those cabinets, go ahead and let those faucets drip, and that'll definitely help you out.
So if you take all those other precautions, you're opening the cabinets, you're doing the drip, you maybe have the faucet covers on, do you need to shut off your water? I mean, when would that be appropriate?
No, I would just shut off the water if you have a leak. If you notice water pouring out, obviously shut the water off. Or if you open a faucet and there is no water pressure, that will tell you that it's frozen. It may not have leaked yet, but it is frozen. Yeah, if you're going out of town for the weekend and you know it's going to freeze, what I would recommend doing is shutting off the water at your customer shutoff or the city meter as a last case scenario, and then open up the faucets throughout the house, let that water bleed down to get all the water out of those lines, and then that just eliminates the possibility of something leaking and flooding while you're gone.
Seems like common knowledge. This is stuff, especially for longtime homeowners.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've been in the business. I mean, like, do things happen to everyone?
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, it does happen to everyone. And most people just don't even think about it, kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's been, fairly recent. I would say we've had more freezes in the last 5 or 6 years than we had, the 10 years prior to that. So most people just don't even think about it. They think, oh, it's Texas and we'll be safe. So this is the city water meter. This is a meter key. I recommend everyone have one. If you turn it clockwise, that would shut the water off to the entire home.